Okay, we're back. We're live. It's a given Friday. How do I know it's Friday? Because we have Trump week. That's why. That's how I know it's Friday. Tim Apicella and me and Cynthia Sinclair. We talk about what Trump did this week or didn't. We talk about the interaction of Trump and other branches of government. And we try to figure out, connect the dots, where we're going here in this government, this country. So, hi, Tim. Thank you for coming down.
Morning, Jay.
Yet again, it's always good.
11 o'clock. I'm happy to be here.
Cynthia's still in Alabama, but she sent an email and I want to read it, okay?
Okay.
It is profoundly different here in terms of the way people feel about Trump. The questions I ask: how do you feel about Trump? Response from everyone I ask: best president ever. Where do you get your news from? Response: Fox News is the only trustworthy news source. All others are fake news. How do you feel about the children at the border? Response: they should not have come here in the first place, so they deserve what they get. Alabama. Few, if any, know that the centers are private for profit. Only 3 out of the 25 people I spoke with said they don't pay attention to what's happening and believe that all politicians lie. Okay, she can't be with us today, and she misses us, and she wants us to look at a particular quote from Mazie Hirono, which I'm going to read to you now. This is Senator Mazie Hirono. Kids packed into detention facilities. A father and daughter drowned in the Rio Grande. If you saw these photos and felt no shame or pain, if you weren't appalled, then something is dead or dying in your heart. We have a crisis of conscience in our country. That is Cynthia's contribution to our discussion today.
Well, my initial action is, first off, good for her for getting all these interview quotations. And secondly, I couldn't agree with Senator Hirono more. I think we are in a moral dilemma, an ethical dilemma. And it's like many people in our nation are just numb.
Yeah.
They're desensitized.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this many times during this show.
Yeah. There's a piece on NPR this morning with Amy Walters evaluating exactly what people are thinking. Heidi Heitkamp was her name.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be a senator.
Right.
And she was speaking to her about the thought in rural America. And they're very conservative by definition in rural America. And that is going to be a big player in this election coming soon. So unless the Democrats can establish that they're reasonable, that they're kind of in the middle, that they do what they say and they say what they do, you know, the rural America, middle America way of looking at things, they're not going to have rural America. You know, the issues the Democrats are spending time on, which is according to Heidi, are the wrong issues. They've got to be speaking to rural America because that is going to be the swing in this election. There are a lot of people, and they do vote. So this is of great concern. You know, Trump's approval rating went up to 44%, according to the last thing I saw. I saw something else that said it was 47%. So, you know, this is a big threat now. He's roaring back.
Yeah.
And people apparently support him no matter what he does, no matter how crazy, nasty, mean, or ill-advised his policies are.
And that goes to the quotation of what's going on with the conscience of America. How is that happening? And of course, we know why all the senators, the Republican senators, are very silent about everything, is because they're just worried about keeping their job and not being primaried. So everyone's sitting on their thumbs. They're not speaking their minds. They're not protesting outrageous behavior and outrageous words from our president.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a snowball effect, if you will.
Well, and then we have, you know, the fragmentation on the Democratic side, which is something to discuss this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a number of articles about the feud, if you will, between Nancy Pelosi and AOC and her group of 4, what do they call it, the squad.
Yeah.
It's called the squad. And the press is covering this, and they are feeding the press, especially AOC, feeding the press about how she's being disrespected, and what Nancy is doing is hateful and and racist and what are you talking about? You know, this is not a good thing for the Democrats. You can't fight among yourselves and have a public spectacular this way. AOC is very dangerous to the effort to unseat Trump. It's very clear that she is a destructive character. She's really off my positive list. She's on my other list right now, and I think she ought to stop. And that's what a lot of the moderates in the Democratic Party are telling her: stop already, enough. But she is, you know, persisting in creating this fragmentation and having an argument among the Democrats. This is really dangerous for the effort to unseat Trump.
Well, you know, if it was the days of Tip O'Neill, I mean, he had a tight grip on the House, and it was the old saying, if you want to get along, you go along. Apparently, she's not doing it. And this is, I think, quite different than what we saw years ago with the conservative, the conservative move to change things in the Republican side. But this is a group of 4, not a group of 20 or 25.
Right, good point. Yeah. So I think Nancy is capable of handling this. I think AOC is ingenue, and she doesn't realize the destructive power of her efforts. I continue to lay it at her feet, that the Long Island City Amazon project it failed. She attacked it. I don't think she has the judgment that we would expect of her. And that's being revealed in many ways and many issues. So I'm very concerned that she is creating such a consternation in the party that Nancy looks weaker, that there are others in the Congress who are at risk in elections and the like. We have really got to. Yeah. We the Democrats have really got to get together.
I always say, remember though, you're elected by your constituents in your hometown, your home state, and if you become a pariah, how effective are you going to be representing their interest when you're set off in the corner? So she's almost at that stage right now.
I believe she is. Yeah, she's a pariah.
Yeah.
She and her friends, they're all pariahs, and they're all, playing a song, a tune.
Well,
that
they're doing it for their own. They're doing it for their own pat on the back because, again, her constituents are not being well served by this.
I agree.
Yeah.
Grandstanding.
Yep.
Well, let's go through some of the other issues. I mean, a high point this week was the whole thing about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
The multimillionaire, billionaire, if you will, who was currying favor with Clinton and also with Trump, who most recently distanced himself after Jeffrey Epstein got in trouble with, sex trafficking of minors.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross, and he's been pretty close to government.
Yeah.
And what effect is that going to have on Trump?
Well, you can distance if you want, but and Bill Clinton is not out of this either.
No.
I mean, you watch Fox; they're saying Bill Clinton, went to the island with Epstein 27 times. Now, I don't know where that number comes from, but the Republicans say, "Hey, it's Bill Clinton." The Democrats are saying, "Hey, I think it's Trump." And Trump doesn't help himself when he has quotations like this out there in the marketplace. I think this was with back in 2005. Remember, Donald Trump was the owner of the Miss Teenage USA pageant. Mm-hmm. And when you have quotes like this that come back up in lieu of these kind of environments of Epstein and child molestation, it doesn't help to have these kind of quotes. And that is, I'll go backstage, everyone's getting dressed, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant. They're standing there with no clothes, and you see these incredible looking women. I sort of get away with that kind of stuff. 2005. And some of those girls, those children, were 14 years old. Yeah. So as much as he would like to moonwalk away from his association with Epstein, we have quotations like this that won't quite let him do that.
And then he made a comment that's been quoted many times about how Epstein, liked beautiful women, especially the young ones.
Yes.
And he admired Epstein for that. So,
what degree did he have knowledge of this going on?
Yeah. Well, there's more that we don't know about.
Yeah, we
Trump.
don't.
But this suggests it. And I guess in order to quell the disturbance over this, they got rid of Acosta, the one who made that plea bargain deal as U.S. Attorney. New Jersey.
Rightly so.
Yeah. I mean, that was a filthy deal. It was obvious.
Yeah.
He never really served time. He got a year's sentence, but he went, I think, 1 day a week and hung around the jail. Rest of the time, he was
in his office.
As usual.
Yeah, he was in his own home office. Yeah.
So I mean,
again, I think
Acosta quit just yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing that he did. But I suspect that he would not have quit without consulting with Trump. And the conclusion with Trump and his advisors was this was going to keep on going, and it was going to have a negative effect on Trump and his image until Acosta quit. And then, as it works, things cool down.
Well, let's look at how many people have, quote unquote, quit in the administration.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So the swamp, clearing out the swamp as a campaign promise, not so much.
Yeah. This takes me to, this whole thing about the subpoenas. Yesterday I caught C-SPAN and Jerry Nadler was, eliciting a vote on whether to authorize him to issue the subpoenas to all these people. And a lot of these people were former staff. Former staff within the last couple of years, former staff. I mean, it's a parade of former staff.
It's a cornucopia of names.
It is.
If I may, Jared Kushner, Jeff Sessions, Rod Rosenstein, Michael Flynn, John Kelly, Rob Porter, former staff guy, aide to Rob Porter, Rick Dearborn. I mean, let's go on. I mean, there's about 5 more in there.
Oh, there are, yeah. All kinds of shapes and sizes. And you got to say, my God, the number of people who have been through that office and who are now, at risk of being subpoenaed, are being subpoenaed. It's extraordinary. I mean, he has left a trail. This is just like a reality show.
I have to ask the question again and again, and I never get the answer I'm literally looking for. And maybe Mazie Hirono gave it to us this afternoon in her quotation is, if this was any other administration, where would we be, and what would the favorability ratings be for that president?
And where are the people in Obama, in Alabama, where are the people in Alabama getting their information from? Fox News. So Fox News is essentially the sole source, and that's what it's telling you.
Well, I would also argue on the radio, probably Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, right. There must be a lot of radio there, too.
But the old quotation, I could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue and no one will care.
It's true. He knew in advance. Anyway, a lot of things have happened this week. There's the census. That was another, what do you call it, a moonwalk thing?
A moonwalk, a somersault, a cartwheel?
Another one in the process. So he says, I'm putting the question on. The Supreme Court calls him on that. Says, no, you got to go back for more. He tries to change his team out, legal team. Okay,
that's denied.
The first team can't find a reason, so and he pulled the second team in. Then the federal court said, no, you can't do that without explaining why you're getting rid of the first team. It's getting good now, so he drops it. He's stumped on that.
Well, he was going to go with an executive order to put the census on anyway, around the Supreme Court.
And then he says he's going to do an executive order, and then he drops that and gives up on that. But simultaneously, he announces that the Homeland Security and the Border Patrol are going to do these midnight arrests in various cities, and he names.
Is that a shiny object? Is that a shiny object or a distraction to get away from the fact that he lost on this 2020 census fight?
I think it's a good point. I think I would conclude
I don't know.
that.
I mean,
this is just it's a way of excusing the fact that he retreated.
I do want to say one thing about this defeat of Donald Trump's. And I am thankful that he didn't push us into a constitutional crisis by trying to go around a Supreme Court decision that he's finally realized, I'm not going to get what I want. Now, he's trying to cover it up by saying, I'll have the Department of Commerce come up with some alternative data. We'll use that for what we ultimately want. Well, they've been working on that a year. Like many things, it's not going to pan out. The news story is going to go away with it, and it'll be forgotten. And he never had a failure. He can still claim his own.
In Alabama,
he can claim his own. He can claim his own victory on this.
I think he had a lot of failures, and if you look carefully, as we do here on Trump Week, you will see another set of failures around the census and around this ridiculous. He's going to arrest 1 million people in their homes over the weekend. Lots of luck. We're going to take a short break just to consider that, let that assimilate into our brains, and we'll come back. Okay, there's more there on this very same issue. There was this thing kind of in the Rose Garden on one of the porticos there in the White House where Barr made some comments and complimented Trump on a number of points. What was that all
How
about?
sad. How sad that the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, has to go out there and be a cheerleader for Donald Trump in trying to elevate his failures. I believe he said, we just wanted to thank you for your executive order to come up with the alternative data. He didn't have to do that.
No, but
why
Trump
did
told
he?
him to do it.
He
That's why.
was told to do
He
it.
bends over for Trump all the time.
Now, what is that called? It's called a lackey.
Yeah.
He is the Attorney General of this country, and he is such a transparent lackey. And it's sad. It's sad to see someone transformed into that.
Why does the word stooge come to mind? It just does come to mind.
I'll take that word.
All right, let's go to technology.
Yeah.
So I don't know all the details, but there was this meeting, I think, yesterday in the White House among technology companies, especially social media big tech companies. Okay, and a couple got disinvited or uninvited. One of them was Facebook. One of them was Twitter.
Yep.
What was going on with that, Tim?
Well, there's history on this. Back in April, the CEO, Jack Dorsey from Twitter, was sitting in the Oval Office. This was all on video, and we saw it on TV. And basically, Trump was really, really disturbed that he was losing accounts off his Twitter, followers. He was losing them. In fact, he lost 6 million followers. And he got really incensed over that. And then CEO Jack Dorsey just said, hey, sorry, but we delete fake accounts or spam accounts. And really, he was not pleased over that at all. And he didn't think he's getting a fair shake from social media. And so that's some of the background music to have this meeting here recently. And you're right, all his would-be enemies that's not, putting on everything for Donald Trump, whether it's fake accounts or not, he's very upset.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that he cuts people off his Twitter list. Apparently, you're able to do that if he doesn't like what they say in their comments back. And that went to a federal district court this week. And the court said, no, you can't do that. You're a public official.
You can't silence your critics.
Yeah, you can't silence your critics. This is a public conversation. You can't silence your critics.
Isn't it funny how Donald Trump, really promotes the First Amendment when it suits his purpose? And then the second it doesn't, he doesn't value the First Amendment.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's funny. You were talking a minute ago about this press conference where Barr complimenting Trump. I watched that on C-SPAN. And I watch more C-SPAN these days, I'll tell you the truth. And at the end of the conference, the cameras focused on the press that was there. There were quite a few, 100 anyway. And the crowd was breaking up. And they were calling questions to him, but he didn't answer any questions. It was all theatrical. He wouldn't answer any questions. And then the crowd was breaking up, and they were talking to each other. And C-SPAN was catching some of the action
Sidebar conversations?
Yeah, right. Sidebar conversations and the gestures and the facial expressions of the press. And it was really disdain. It was contempt for what was going on. And 100 people there, and a lot of them, it was a scene to watch the contempt arise after he walked off without answering any of their questions. That's what we got. He's trying to dump on the press and the First Amendment every day.
We
every
haven't had press conference for so long. At what point does the media have access to what's going on in this administration? And the answer is zero to none, practically.
Yeah. We'll see what the new press secretary will do.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic, though.
Nor I.
So, so that was really strange because he's dumping on the very company, Twitter, that is his channel, to the public, and Facebook, who I guess he liked before, he doesn't like anymore. The thing is that this is madness. This is no rhyme, no reason, and it's really sick. And I sent you a video I saw on YouTube where they defined the elements of psychopathy, and it really sounded a lot like him. I think it was made to refer to some of his personality quirks, but the suggestion in this video, and it was a professional video, was that he's got a big problem.
I hate to say, but a lot of psych classes are using Donald Trump as the poster child for some of these psychological problems.
Yeah, I mean, even if he was faithful to his own attempts to diminish the press, it's so bizarre what he does. He's kicking the hand that feeds him in a sense.
It's strange because I think Donald Trump is smart enough to know that social media is as valuable as what John Kennedy thought television was. And he's right. It is. It's extremely valuable. And so why would you make arch enemies out of the CEOs that do have some say as to what content will and will not go on social media?
It's a dynamic. You know, at the beginning, I think he effectively, although he was doing crazy things then as now, he effectively manipulated the press. He's good at that. He's done all his life, really, in New York real estate. But I think the press is getting wise to him. I think the individual reporters are getting wise to him. They stand up to him more, and they write against him more. I mean, if you look at the number of articles in papers that I read, I consider, much more balanced than Fox News. Most of the articles about him are negative. Think about it. Anyway, in fact, nearly all. Let's talk about the spat with Britain. So we don't have enough trouble in terms of dealing with foreign policy and diplomatic relations with our friends or former friends. Now we have a spat with Britain. Can you talk about it?
Well, of course, this memo was leaked. It was an earnest, matter-of-fact assessment of the President of the United States and his shortcomings. Now, God knows how that memo got leaked. Some suspect Russia might have had a hand in it. We don't know for sure. But the bottom line is the White House had declared that we're not going to deal with Kim Derrick, the ambassador, and that was the end of that. And regretfully, he had to resign.
Well, I mean, he had to resign, but I think he resigned very quickly. He didn't oppose the resignation. He said, I had enough of this. This is not a good place for me to be. It's not good for my career or the relationship between Britain and the U.S. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, and if you listen to some of the comments made from those in Parliament and in the government, he's well loved. So their support for him is kind of a slap in the face to this administration.
Yeah.
And so that tears the relationship apart even further.
Yes.
And that's something I think Putin would love to see happen more.
Let's talk about that. The first thing is this is a cable. And diplomatic cables are secret. They're confidential. And it has to be that way because the ambassador is in a strange land. He's in the country that he's been assigned to,
right? And
he has to be able to report with confidentiality back to his boss in the home country.
Straightforward.
And he's got to be candid. He's got to be able to tell his home country what's going on. That's very important to define the relationship between and what policies the home country takes in dealing with the relationship with this country. So diplomatic cables, like pouches, are special. They're sanctified. Somehow this got released. Got released to the public and the press and all that, and in quick order.
Right.
How did that happen? Do you think it was somebody in the British embassy? I doubt it. So if it wasn't somebody in the British embassy, who might it have been? Well, it might have been one guy, I think, that would benefit, tries this all the time to benefit against fragmenting people and dividing countries and policies and groups and communities. That's Putin.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been reported, but I think it's certainly worth speculating about.
It is a speculation, but
he did
this
this.
plays right into his wheelhouse of
Yeah.
trying to separate the United States from NATO, from the Paris Climate Accord, and just separating everyone from the United States, so that union isn't as strong as it used to be.
So what you have is Putin, who's probably still doing it. I think a lot of the people who follow this firmly believe, including the intelligence agencies in this country, which have a lot of data, we firmly believe that Putin is still doing it and will continue to do it increasingly as we ramp up to the 2020 election. And then we have Trump himself who's doing it. There was a site that was written up in the New York Times called Joe Biden info, joebiden.info. It probably still exists. It's a spoof site, but you don't see that right away.
Right.
And all it does is it runs Joe Biden down in every which way. It mocks him, it insults him, and so forth. Come to find, it's completely bad taste. Come to find, this guy Mauldin, Mauldin, is on Trump's campaign committee, and he's the one who's doing this site. So Trump himself is doing this kind of divisive thing around the country and doing the kind of dirty politics, hit politics himself, and it's trackable.
Well, not only a fake website trashing a would-be contender for the 2020. What about the invitation of come on in? If you give me all the information on my other, my competition, give me all the dirt you can, and I'll be okay with that. And by the way, I may not go call the FBI that I got it from you.
Yeah, right.
So,
all those things, they're all going to come into play, aren't they?
They're all coming into play. And
right
we
now.
have, we don't have that many days before the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And, it's my hope that the CEOs of all these social media companies start really knocking out all these fake, fake comments and fake followers and really try to clean it up. I mean, it's a never-ending job, and it's near impossible, but you got to start somewhere.
Well, the thing is that you got people in Alabama and other places, as Cynthia wrote to us, who are firmly entrenched with Trump, including people I know here.
I've talked to one guy. Just real quick, I was doing a little interview, and I said, would you wear a button say, I vote Trump? Because you voted for Trump last election. He goes, yes, I did. And he said, I'll vote for him again. I said, but would you wear a button say, I vote Trump? He goes, no, I cannot. I go, why? If you strongly believe in Donald Trump and you're going to vote for him again, why wouldn't you wear the button? He goes, because he's a racist. He just went down the list, what he thought Trump was, yet he's still going to vote for him.
Because he's strong. And he's the best president ever. But the problem, that you identify, the problem that you raise in that story is that maybe there are people out there who, did vote for Trump, who still feel there's value in Trump, but they're really afraid to talk about it. They
social embarrassment. They're worried about the social
embarrassment.
Yeah.
And maybe the Trump base is weakening, at least in some places. Maybe that's what you saw. And the question is, how does the Democratic Party, as I mentioned earlier, in the Amy Walters interview this morning on NPR, how does the Democratic Party deal with the rural areas, which are conservative by nature? How do they change people's minds? They got to be moderate. They got to be a little more conservative. They can't be crazy and go on far left. This is a bad idea. If you want to get the middle, you got to go to the middle.
Well, I'd say even go a bit further than that. Reach out to those Republicans that want to vote for somebody else. They just need the right candidate to say, yes, I'll vote for a Democrat. This also tells us one thing. Don't trust the polls, because people are going to lie. And if these pundits and these political, kingmakers, they start trusting the polls again, like they did in the 2016 election, it's going to be a nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Well, the Democratic Party has to come together. We're going to follow that next time.
Yeah.
There's so much to follow. We're going to do this all week long. We kind of do it all week long.
It's a fire hydrant of information. What can we say?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you, Jay. Aloha.